Hey everybody, we're back again with the Caves Cast podcast. I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Ryan.
and today we are going to be talking about Immortal Thor number 5. I would honestly probably just expect that we're going to be doing Immortal Thor every month at some point.
I mean, we have to. It's
Yeah, and I mean, eventually, I think we both can agree that we would like to get extended a little bit longer, like
for
make it
sure.
an hour or so at some point. So
For sure.
that way we can, maybe do a few other things and not just talk about one book every week.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to be able to get a little bit more content out there each week and just talk about other things other than just the one book that we are both reading and both really like that week.
Right.
But I mean, it's funny because I felt like this was a pretty like simple, straightforward issue
Hmm.
if you don't include the beat like the very first couple pages and the last couple pages
Right.
because they add like so much more like depth to it.
Yeah.
So
That's
otherwise it's just a fight with Tyrannos.
yeah, I was a little confused because it's like, Alec Ewing just adding more lore and just,
Yeah, I Yeah, I'm and he we'll just get into it because he continues on like with the first page, and it doesn't say that it's an edda, but I also didn't look up. Let me do that right now. Let me look up and see what the name like what this is. It's that first page where he does all the text and stuff
oh yeah.
in um I'm not sure what this Carmina Burana is. It's a Latin poem.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So I obviously don't know what any of these words mean,
Yeah.
but if we're not lazy. I'd look up a translation right now, but I'm
Right.
not good because I just want to talk about the book.
Yeah.
Um, we open up with this really kick-ass shot of the wheel of Tyrannos' wheel,
Yeah.
and it's just him like it's like basically saying that it's kind of like recounting what's happening in a very like prose way.
Yeah.
Just how Tyrannos is fighting Gaia's son and he had the wheel in hand and it turned and it turned and it is turning and it will turn and it will always be turning, like just this very like poetic style of writing that we know from Ewing, just
Yeah.
based on like Immortal Hulk or plenty of other things that he's written.
Hmm.
Um, and then we take a big jump basically to like the beginning of creation.
Right. Because now we're bringing in the demiurge and
Yeah, and I mean, we know that Billy Kaplan is going to be whatever his name is, Wiccan. Almost said
Mhm.
Warlock. Wiccan is going to be like the demiurge of the future, you
Right.
know. And we've even seen that in what book was that? I think it might have been Doctor Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay.
And did Ewing write that?
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. I haven't really kept up with Doctor Strange.
I mean, and that book came out in like during Aaron's era, like I think, but it might have been between Aaron and Kate's.
Right. Well, what I love about Al Ewing is if like you're really like rewarded if you're reading a lot of his titles because he makes them all kind of weave.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna look up who if he did write it or not. I'm pretty sure he did. Oh my goodness, come on. No, he did not.
Oh wow.
It was Robbie Thompson. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. And that book had a lot of depth to it. That book was really interesting, and it was Javier Rodriguez also did art on that, so maybe that's why I thought that Ewing wrote it because they did Defenders together.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, it opens up with the Demiurge, like the previous one from like the beginning of creation and how um he called it the Demiurge Primordial, the God Creator. This is like news to me, man, because I've never seen this before.
Right.
So, and it seems to imply that this demiurge created the elder gods. Like we have like the Utgar Loki, and we have Toranos, and we have Gaia, and what I think is Chthon.
Chthon, yeah.
Yeah, and then the snake god that I don't recognize.
I don't know who that is either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, and it kind of talks about how like all of the living concepts that we like the Marvel universe has today is kind of like where this is where the basis for all that was, like
Right.
deep magic and life and the wheel and the cycle of rebirth and all these things. And then they start to take notice of each other, you know, the siblings do, and then they
Yeah.
start to throw down. They just have this great big war amongst each other, and all the Demiurge does, he just watches,
Right.
you know, just like is interested to see what like how it plays out.
Yeah.
But then Gaia starts to realize like this isn't really how this isn't right. So she changes things, she changes the cycle, and she began to plan is where we're in, like where it kind of ends off with that.
Right.
So these first few pages, I have a feeling we're gonna get more to this like creation story.
Right.
And I don't know, this I whole Mortal Hulk really dealt with like almost like the ideologies behind religion and a lot of other things, like and how Toba wanted to be worshipped by Hulk and all these things, and like
Right.
I don't know, it seemed very like religious in that regard.
Right.
And I almost this almost feels the same way because he is telling like a creation story, and that's very biblical and very like religious. I
Yeah.
mean, even amongst other religions out there.
Like he's basically doing that for like this
Yeah,
Norse.
yeah,
Like,
it would be cool to see him actually set up like not so much how like in Jurgen's run when Thor's like has like a cult of followers on Earth and they all worship him,
yeah.
but like it would be nice to see him like the people of Asgard and the people of the like the 10 realms like actually like acknowledge that he is the all. I don't know. I I think he could really play into it and make it really interesting.
Yeah.
But they immediately jumps back into the fight with Tyrannos because at the end of the last issue, Thor rounded up the Thor Corps. So we've got, Thor, Odin's son. We've got Beta Ray Bill, Storm, Loki, and Jane Foster. And fun fact, Beta Ray Bill is the only person on this team to have been a member of all three iterations of the Thor Corps.
Oh, that's dope. That's
He's
dope.
OG, bro. He's OG for a reason. But
Hell
it's cool, man, because this issue is just them like tossing the hammer around to the
yeah,
person
because they
who,
can only have the power for 1 minute, so they gotta kind of
yeah,
gotta keep the power going. They gotta
yeah,
throw it at each other.
yeah. And I like that again. It's the Silver Age thing. I like it
Yeah.
where it's back in the day. If Thor let the hammer go for 60 seconds, he turns back to Donald Blake.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's cool to see them like work in concert with each other and just like toss the hammer around to whoever needs it next because they're gonna run out of time.
Right.
But then like Jane throws it to Loki and he's like, nope, Bill's next. And then so he throws it to Bill to Storm. And he's like, Storm's next. So he throws it to Storm, and Storm's like, I don't want this. So she throws it to Beta Ray Bill, and he blasts Tyrannos, throws the hammer to Jane, you know. And
Yeah.
it's while all this is happening, Tyrannos is like he's just getting aggravated, like they're like he calls them what, gnats? Yes,
Yeah.
accursed stinging gnats. Like he's just getting like aggravated by this, and they keep tossing the hammer back and forth, and he's like trying to catch it,
Right.
and then
He wants
Jane
to take
throws
the
it.
power away from him, basically.
Yeah, like basically just to get it, like just to stop it, like
Yeah.
to get him to knock it off, and uh, and then Jane throws it once more, and it cracks the wheel,
Yep.
and so like Thor like starts to taunt him, and Tyrannos is like, oh, Mjolnir, like now he starts to see like what's going on here,
Right.
and Loki, overconfident Loki, as he is, he winds up and chucks the hammer at Tyrannos, directly at his face, only for him to catch it.
Yes, which
And
is
okay, as soon as he caught the hammer, man, when I read this last week,
uh-huh.
he caught the hammer. I was like, if they don't do what they need to do with this, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be pissed. And then so everybody's like, oh, like he got the hammer. He's like, the hammer's mine. And you see the power start to fade away from everybody else.
right,
And then so Bill questions like, I don't understand. How can our foe even lift the enchanted hammer? Thor responds with, the reasons are simple indeed, Bill. Tyrannos, I judge you worthy of the power of Thor.
right.
And man, and this has probably got to be one of my favorite pages, like in like the last 10 years of Thor, I gotta say, because this is so cool, man.
Yeah, man.
It's so cool. It's
I
so
love the way
cool.
Kokolo like draws Tyrannos and like makes him this big, epic, big.
Like Viking.
It
Yeah.
almost he almost looks like he's like completely drawn different from everything else in the comic. Like he's really
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you know,
and he is like, and I like that it's that way
yeah,
because it shows you how mysterious and how like almost like eldritch he
yeah,
is. You know, like we can't even begin to understand what these elder gods are and like what them being here means and all these things. It's very almost like Lovecraftian in that way,
yeah. It's pretty
but
cool.
it is cool. It is cool. But yeah, man, like the design for Toronto's Thor is so cool.
Yeah,
You know, it's he really did become the Utgard Thor at this point, you know?
pretty much. Yeah,
It's cool, man. And Tyrannos is like, okay, like this, like he's like, this is power. He's like, it's when the old storm meets the new. He's like, and I'm gonna like tear it all apart, basically.
right.
And so he like says his little monologue, and Jane's like, Thor, like basically like Thor, like, what are we gonna do? And Loki interrupts and says, just give him a second. Because Loki knows that there's a trick up Thor's sleeve, you know.
Right.
And it's cool to see Loki even recognize that now Thor is like gonna pull a fast one
Yeah, because he's
because
basically like, "This
he
is
just
what I
got
gave him a
outraged
test
by
for.
him.
This is
He
what I
just
gave
got
him a
out.
test."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like he's acknowledging that Thor is like developing and evolving and learning, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
And so he asked Tyrannos a question. He says, "What is the power of Thor?" And then so Tyrannos begins to like kind of like freak out a little bit. And then I'll just read Thor's monologue.
yeah,
Says, when they called to me in ancient times as rain lashed and lightning struck, and as the roof fell in and the longboat capsized, what power did they invoke? Did they wish the storm to rage on, more terrible each moment than the last? I say thee nay. The power of Thor is the power to hold the storm back. And my greatest power, my greatest strength, that it took me the longest to learn is knowledge. How to use my power well, with compassion, with restraint, with nobility, with hard-won wisdom, and with and most of all with humility. A fine is it tautology?
yeah.
Is it
Tautology.
not? The power of Thor is the power to be worthy, and if I may grant that power, and I see no rule against it, then you, Tyrannos, deserve it more than any, for yours is surely the greatest need. And it's so funny because I've never looked at Thor's power that way before.
Or
You know,
title, even
yeah,
title. Yeah,
and I guess it's very simple when you think about it because anybody that prayed to Thor always prayed for safety from the storm and the thunder. You know,
right,
they would always say like Thor protect me from the like whatever, like the waves, the lightning, the thunder, like protect us on our journey, protect us on our boats, like so it's very it's almost obvious, you know, that this is what this is how he sees his power now. That he
right,
has all these bigger responsibilities. And even during like when he's talking when he talks about compassion, restraint, nobility, and hard-won wisdom, the panel cuts to the rest of the core, you know,
right,
and and they're lined up in a way, and I don't know if this is just me reaching here, but it kind of looks like that he's acknowledging that he wouldn't be where he is without the people in his life and without the allies that have stood by him. You
right,
know, like here he like with compassion, like you have Jane, who's been by his side literally from the very beginning and has showed him like the utmost compassion has always been there for him to protect him, to
right.
help him, you know, to be a confidant for him. And Storm with restraint because she's the other part of that, you know, like she's like the living lightning too.
Right.
Like she can control lightning and weather and all that stuff. So she understands what it means to be able to hold that power back and to have to contain it. Bay Ray Bill.
Nobility.
Oh, nobility, right? He is the most noble of any of these characters.
Yeah.
You know, there have been points in time where, like right now, you know, I don't even have to go back. Right now, he's here to stand up against Tyrannos, you know, side by side with his brother who just wronged him, who destroyed his hammer and basically just like threw away their friendship for
Right.
nothing. And Thor recognizes that, but he also recognizes that Bill is too noble of a warrior and of a brother to like say no, no, man, I'm not going to be there for you.
Right. He knows the
Like,
responsibility is way bigger than.
yeah, and I mean, he was even willing to give him his own hammer at one point when he was on when Thor was unworthy, you know. So like, there's a really, and it's I'll get to that next, but and then with hard won wisdom, like despite Loki being as tricky as he is, the last I don't know 10 years of Loki's continuity has been like basically overcoming challenge after challenge after challenge.
Right.
You know, he dies at the end of Ragnarok, gets reborn as a kid, and he has to deal with gaining everybody's trust in Asgard, and nobody believes him, only Thor does.
Right.
You know, and then when things kind of work out for him, oh no, he doesn't die in Ragnarok. He dies in Siege again. I'm sorry. He came back right in the beginning of Siege, like right during JMS's run. But
Okay. Okay.
either way, you know, regardless, he still had to go through a lot. He was Kid Loki, had to go through all that stuff. He was reborn again at the end of that, and then we got Agent of Asgard, and he had to battle literally the evil version of himself from that previous time.
Right. And a lot of that was Ewing too, right?
Yeah, that's all Ewing. All
Yeah.
17 issues of that is him. So
Okay.
like hard won wisdom. Loki's had to learn a lot in the last 10 years to be where he is and to be the person that they are, you know.
Right.
And then humility, the panel is just on Thor. Humility was a big theme for Thor in his early days.
Exactly.
Arrogant, he was cocky, and that's the initial reason why he was banished to Earth to begin with, you know. So like we know that, I mean, most common knowledge I think is he was the arrogant son of Odin that, you know, was doing a bunch of wild ass stuff in the realms,
Right.
you know, didn't really listen to his father, was just kind of like almost like power, not really power drunk, but he was just like looking for a fight, you know.
Right.
So he had to learn that himself. He had to learn, and and I think Thor's in the thing that describes for the most is humility now, you know, because while he is powerful and he knows he is, it's moments like this that show us, like the reader, that his best quality is his humility, you
Right.
know, because he's not out here saying like I'm the most powerful. I can do these things because I have the power, because I'm the All Father. He's like I
Right.
do these things because I've had to go through like my entire life has been a challenge, like a trial,
Right.
and I've had to learn these things. And where I'm at now is like the testament to that.
Right. And the Odin Force takes more responsibility than I'm like the All Father now. So I
Yeah,
can't be as
yeah,
reckless as I once was. I have a huge responsibility here.
right. So I really like this moment a lot. I mean, and this might rank up in one of my top 5 moments for
Yeah.
Thor, because this is just it's like just so like well written, and it's so meaningful to who Thor is, and that's like what he stands for as a character.
Right.
So I think it's really really good.
So
But
I'm a little confused. So is it basically that Tyrannos doesn't like and doesn't have these traits, so that's why he's kind of like going it back?
it's almost like infecting him with
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
Like so like basically, and it's kind of followed up with like on this page. He says what is seen, like Thor says what is seen. Sorry. Toronto says, "Take it back, Thor. Take this horror back." And then Thor responds with, "What is seen cannot be unseen. The heart once open cannot simply be closed. How does it feel? How does your heart feel, God of ancient thunders?" So I think that what happened was is he caught the hammer, and once Thor explained, "Hey, you're worthy of my power because I willed it so, and this is what my power is." He almost like gained a conscience, you know, and
Right.
realized
Okay.
like this are all the awful things I've done. Like they just had their battle on Earth, and he killed how many people in New York City
Right.
because of the storm he brought. So like all of these things, like guilt, the like the turmoil, it's all weighing down on him now. Whereas before he was just this primordial God being that didn't have those things, didn't have those human qualities, you know?
Right.
So and Tyrannos is like, hey man, like take it away. Like I don't want this. I'm just doing what I was told to do. You know,
Right.
like this was what I this is what I was told to do. And by Utgard Loki, and then the reveal of also Gaia.
Right. That Gaia
So
basically
this is
unleashed
kind of
him.
like confirmation that Utgard Loki and Gaia are working together, you know, and that she sealed him away, and that they've let him loose now to kind of prep Thor for something. I
Right.
don't know, to turn the wheel, I guess, on this cycle. And they even talk like there's commentary, like narration, and it talks about how Gaia can feel the seasons changing.
Right.
And then it hits with somewhere Gaia felt the cold winter. The winter's cold, and as Thor learned the truth. The words echoed in his ears louder than any thunder, and he roared back with equal force, his rage sudden as the storm in an empty sky.
Right. So
So
Thanos dipped
it,
out. He got
yeah,
out.
well, that or he either got consumed by the, you know, by the
Right.
hammer. I don't know. It doesn't really. He might have just bounced out, which is probably the case. I don't know that we've seen the last of him,
Yeah. Probably not.
but yeah, he chucks the hammer back at Thor and he's out of here. I there's just so many unknowns when it comes to like Gaia and what
Right.
her plan is and what Utgard's Loki planet, what his plan is. Um, but the next couple issues I think are supposed to go to like one of Thor's and Loki's like original adventures. And it's weird because it all like the next two issues almost seem very similar to 272 or Thor 272, which is the one where they go to like where they go to Utgard and they go to Utgard Loki and they do the three trials and they do these things and he's like tricking them each time basically.
Right.
Um Ewing even references that in what was it? I think his newsletter.
Okay.
And sorry. Yeah, so like he mentioned in his newsletter and he had to have mentioned it for a reason, you know, like it would I don't think it would just be there if it was just like, hey, this is my favorite issue or
Right.
so I mean he obviously has an encyclopedic knowledge of Marvel, so he's gonna pull from everything, I think.
Likely. Yeah. I mean, that's Ewing
Yeah,
for a nutshell.
yeah, I mean we even got him he pulled from Fractions run with the World Tree stuff with
Right.
Young Oak in the beginning of issue two. So he's just gonna tie. I think he's just gonna tie everything together and make it like this an awesome epic of just we love Thor.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
He's doing the Immortal Hulk thing. He's making
yeah,
it bigger than he needs to be. Like he's the biggest he can be.
yeah. And it really and it's cool because it feels like the beginnings of like a grand like epic journey,
Right.
you know, and that's kind of what mythology should be. And this
And
is kind of mythology for us.
right. And I what I really like about it too is this Ewing does this, but even then, even though the thing's canceled, we get like an Avengers Inc. little thread come in here. And
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah,
like I was like, that's cool, man. Like
yeah,
sad that that's ending, but it's like, that issue was cool. It had to deal with Asgard and,
yeah.
all like
Yeah, it
of
was. Yeah, and we'll go into that because we're gonna get there to the end. But
yeah.
he's starting to say goodbye to everybody. Storm is like, wow, like you basically gave him the hammer to let it infect him and make him give it back.
Hmm.
And they have a cool little moment just about how he's sorry that he took her away from the fight, but she's like, oh, it's okay. Like it'll be a shortcut if you just take me to where I need to go, you know.
Right.
And then he's like, is there anything else you need of me? And she's like, I need a cape. So she takes his cape, you know, he gives her the cape and she's looking all regal. And then she shows up in X-Men Red, ready to throw hands with
Does she have
Genesis.
the cape in X-Men Red too?
She might. I didn't look.
Okay.
I it kind of breezed. I read it pretty fast. It was a
Okay.
pretty fast read. So, it was like big bombastic war-like action for most of the issues. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch the cool fight scenes.
Yeah. Don't blame
I'll
you.
have to go back and check it out. But she probably does. Um, so they say goodbye to Storm, and now he says goodbye to Bill.
That
And
was such a touching moment. The way,
dude, oh my gosh, man. And
like,
I'm so glad that he's doing the work to like
yeah,
rectify that. Because while I like that segment of Case's run a lot, and I don't necessarily, I'm not mad about Stormbreaker being broken. I mean, part of me is upset about it, but like I got over it. It's fine. He has the Twilight Sword now, but like their relationship, I think, even in Beta Ray Bill, he's still upset with Thor, and then in that first issue, Thor comes in and just hacks town, uh, the nullified Fin Fang Foom.
right,
And he's like, man, he's like, you're always taking my thunder, like literally taking my thunder, and you're like taking all the glory. I'm over it. Like I just can't do it anymore. And Thor's like, oh, what are you so upset about? Like,
right.
like he's just kind of like dummy about it. Um, but it's nice to see him recognize that he messed up. And I mean, even Bill is like, hey man, like you left some deep wounds, and what we're healing and we've done the work, and he's like, we're still like, he's like, we'll get there, basically.
Yeah,
So it's cool to see that. I really appreciate Al doing that for those
right.
two because they're bros, man. They just need to
Yeah,
get back to being bros.
absolutely.
He says goodbye to Jane and Loki, and Jane with her Valkyrie sight sees that Thor's time might be coming. That's what that little skull over his head is.
Yeah,
So, and Ewing wrote part of the original Jane Foster Valkyrie run,
got you. Okay.
and and it's we got a little bit of that from Avengers Inc., like with there being a vision of somebody wielding Mjolnir dying, but may not necessarily be Thor, but because he's wielding the hammer right now. Like and this is kind of where we see Thor slip back into that overconfidence, where he's like, "Then I shall not let the hammer out of my grip again." And
Right.
Jake's more
He
worried
kind of
about
brings
the
his
fact that he
overconfidence
might die.
to. He kind of brings his overconfidence to kind of mask the.
Yeah, like probably his worry about it, like, hey, like then it's fine. He's like, if somebody wielding Mjolnir might die, then I better never let it go.
Right.
And the other side of that too is he's being a responsible king and saying, okay, like if somebody's destined to die, at least it'll be me.
Right.
Kind of the vibe, half the vibe I get from that. But then he says goodbye to them. Um, Jane leaves him with one little bit of info and how Scourge is back. And we see the Roxxon building, and Scourge and Agger are just, chopping it up, talking about how he's like he has a friend that told him that Agger is the keeper of Thor's legends, which is like, in Marvel Universe is their comic books,
Right.
basically. So they're talking it up for a second, and then a third voice comes in to the mix, and it is Amora, the Enchantress.
Yes, sir.
It's been a minute since we've seen her, but I like Amora, man. She's cool. She's dastardly.
Yeah.
She's very like conniving and manipulative, and she totally uses Scourge. Like she uses him like a lapdog, bro. And he's just like at her beck and call.
Right.
And it's cool to have Scourge back, man. He's been dead for 30 years, 40 years by now almost. Because he died in Simonson's run.
Yeah. It's been that
He
long. I thought they would have brought him back since then.
and maybe I'm just forgetting, but I
Okay.
don't know that he's been dead for forever, bro. Like,
Right.
and Tyr too. Tyr's been dead too, but he's off doing whatever he's doing in gods now.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. But yeah, regardless, it's very cool because if Agger is going to be like the Scald of like of Midgard and kind of control Thor's legend and tell that tale,
Yeah.
and he's partnered up with Enchantress, what kind of lies are they cooking up, And this seems like a very like very natural evolution from Zenmu to Enchantress. And it's funny because Agger's not really changing his tune at all. You
No.
know, he's just he's almost like one note, but that's what makes him work so well because he's just a scumbag, you know, CEO that's trying to make a dollar off of everybody,
Right.
fill his pockets and be the richest dude around, but he's also a Minotaur. So
Right.
he just happens to be a Minotaur on top of all these other awful things that he is.
And this was basically the first arc, right? The first arc is pretty much
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I would say this is the end of the first arc. Yeah.
So pretty much the trade that's going to come out will pretty much just be.
Yeah. I think so because the next one starts, let's see. Yeah. Six is like when their first journey into mystery or whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, dude, this might be I think I said this last time Thor
Yeah.
was out, but this is now my favorite issue of this series. Like,
Right.
what do I do? Every issue becomes my new favorite.
Right.
It's
I
great,
mean,
man.
we're pretty much eating right now between this and Flash is getting a similar thing happening right now with Spurrier, and
Oh, dude,
just
except
seems
Speed
like
Force. Except Speed Force is so bad.
yeah, that sucks. I didn't
Dude,
even
I had to drop it. I just couldn't do it
yeah,
anymore. Like yeah, well let's change gears and talk about Speed Force for a second.
yeah,
Like this book is like everything the opposite of Immortal Thor. I hate it, man.
yeah,
Like all of the characters sound just like dumbass kids. Like and maybe I'm being a boomer, whatever. But like it's like if every single bit of dialogue ends in fam or this, and I'm just like, dude, and even Kalax or whatever his name is, like the robot,
yeah, Felix, yeah.
sounds stupid, man. Like it's not good.
Yeah,
And make Holt look like an idiot the whole issue. Like he can't, like he's not the smartest guy on earth.
right.
Like, give me a break, dude. Like, come on.
Ugh, that's a
It's
damn
just not
shame, dude.
good.
Because I've always said, like, damn it, I want multiple Flash books out, and it's
Yeah. And I feel like an idiot because like I was like, I'm gonna support this book no matter what. So we get more Flash books. But I can't, dude. Like
yeah,
I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I support the shitty Flash book because I want another shitty Flash book or maybe a better Flash book?
well,
Or do
not
I
even that.
not support it?
I would continue to get it if it was adding anything to the current like Flash story.
And they reference it like one time in the
Yeah,
first issue. And that's it. Like, and
yeah,
it would like I would like this more if it was about Avery and Wallace trying to figure out what was up with the Speed Force and having to do some hijinks.
right.
But this is not it. This is something random, completely different.
And when has Wallace ever been this kind of dumb? Like, I know he's like immature, but he's not like dumb, like immature. Like
I
he's
don't know. It's either way, it's dumb.
yeah.
You're
I mean,
reading that and you enjoy it.
it's just
Bless your soul,
what a
bro.
shame because it's like so much is going on with the Speed Force and the mainline Flash run that you could
Yeah.
literally just build off that and have that
Yeah.
reverberate, make a story out of like the side effects of that, and they're just
Yeah. Or like because we know that Max is now stuck wherever he's at, why not have those? Why not? Why wouldn't you have those two go and do it?
right,
Like have them go look for Max. Take
right.
Bart with them. Like, I don't know. There's so many ideas they could have done and they didn't do anything with it except for this garbage.
Yeah, this is gonna probably I give it probably like a 6 issue. It's probably gonna get canceled after 6 issues.
It's only 6 issues, so
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought it was gonna be
yeah.
ongoing.
No, man. Are you kidding me? I'm sure there was a huge drop off in sales
Oh yeah,
from that.
I'm
But
sure.
all
It's
right, I don't really want to talk about books that I don't like because I
yeah,
hate some time doing that. But
yeah,
yeah, everybody go if you're not if even if you don't like Thor and if you just like a good fantasy epic series,
yes, sir.
like just go read this. It's really well written. The art is really great. The story is interesting. All of the characters sound like themselves. They're all cool.
Yeah,
They're all, I don't know, man. I could say a million great things. I could talk about this book forever, but I
right.
won't.
I mean, if you're just a fan of Immortal Hulk, basically what
Yeah,
Ewing is doing to that,
yeah,
Immortal Hulk is considered to be, that was one of the first times where Marvel realized, like, holy crap, we could outsell Batman if we do,
yeah.
we actually
And
give
and, and
writers
Thor's
something
up
to
there,
read.
man. It's been selling a lot every month. So
Yeah. So I mean, if Al Ewing loves to do things to shake up and add new power scaling and add these different things. It's really fun to watch, really fun to get into the lore and the
yeah,
added lore and the manipulated lore. And
yeah, definitely. Like, and there's so many layers, man. It's gonna be so cool to see it evolve and see it like fold out.
yeah, dude.
But I think that might be it for us today, guys. We're running out of time.
All right.
So, thanks again. and we'll be back next week with something else.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Later.